The channel, Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. I don't practice as a theologist anymore. The call went off my life and I acknowledged it and acted accordingly by doing other stuff instead. Now, being fair at a time of a breakup. Are you being fair or are you not? Have you been fair or have you not? Well, let's look at it. You've come to the point where one of the others left. Now let's look at how it's happened and why. Firstly, was it just an abandonment, a complete and utter abandonment without warning, without any talk of problems, was it a covert, right, abandonment, a premeditated, well thought out form of abandonment on the person that you're with, without any warning or discussion or any principles as to what the issues were? No discussion, no nothing. You've just walked out and abandoned that person. That's abuse, by the way. That is severe abuse, because how can a person know if you're going if you don't say anything? And it's a damn rotten sign of immaturity and abuse. If you've discussed things, I remember in one instance I had a bird that we'd gotten to the point where we were either going to get married or we weren't. She decided that we weren't, based on, I think, something rather to do with the father saying that I had too many children, which were already grown up. So she shot herself in the foot, and that was the end of that. Another one, you get a lot of these women that run on their ego. They're in the relationship for their ego. They're not applying themselves. They're running it as minimal as they can. They're split between themselves, because a lot of these people are into themselves. They're split between themselves and other interests, and they just want to condition you and reduce you to a minimum of what they can put into your relationship, and they will try and condition you to that, and it works. These people are experts at what they do, but if you're not onto it, you will be conditioned to being with someone that runs at a minimal input level, so that they can have a single life but have you ready on standby for company for them. These people are prevalent. They usually have narcissistic tendencies, asexual tendencies, which they have a tendency to be selfish and focus on themselves, disguised through empathetic and even super empathetic outward displays of charity and stuff. Usually there's an underlying motive behind it, as a financial source or something like this. It's really got nothing to do with being charitable at all, because charity is based on persistence relative to voluntary contribution to a person's life or people that are in need. It's got nothing to do with financial income, and that's where a lot of these church organisations and things have profited under the label of charity, and that's wicked as well. These people know how to use the system and their attributes to benefit themselves, and they will, and you have to be on your game. And there's also a lot of underdeveloped characters running around as well, and these people will prey on the dating sites and things like that, where they get easy access to people. Unfortunately, loneliness can mislead people into situations where it's not beneficial for them. And a lot of people get to the point of desperation where they'll take whatever they can get and subject themselves to people that are really not going to benefit them. And that's unfortunate. You see, dysfunction leads to dysfunction, leads to dysfunction, leads to abuse, leads to abuse, leads to harm. And it takes work to stay out of the descent into that. And sometimes you really have to work hard to find resolve, and get resolved in situations where you've got a relationship going and you've got the courage to just bring up at least what the issues are, and hope that together things can come to peace. See, if you're a person that's purposed yourself to have peace in your life, like you've deliberately purposed yourself to have peace in your life, and that's why I became a Christian. I'd had enough of the wiles and the strategies and the brilliance of the powers and principalities of darkness working against my life in my ignorance, to wear me out psychologically, to wear me out physically. See, a lot of people ADHD, but what they don't realise is, and not many people understand this, it can be driven by powers and principalities of darkness. The racing of the mind, the rumination, the torment. A lot of that can be driven by the powers and principalities of darkness. It's not necessary. See, a lot of these diagnoses are based on the unseen. And I can remember, and some of the ladies that might be listening to this that I've been with, trying to have a relationship with, will know they've had mental problems and brain problems and mental health problems, and if they stay with me long enough, those problems begin to subside. The problem with it is, though, they're not aware that the powers of principalities and darkness and the ways of this world will, by nature, want to draw them back into their troubledness, their unhealthiness. And you'll see a lot of these people find their way into a realm of recovery and peace only to be drawn back. And usually this drawback can come through outside interferences, people that they're bonded to, that are not willing or ready to heal themselves, and they don't want to be left alone in their mental illnesses and harms. So they pull on that person to come back because they've got a sense of security. See, some of these people with mental health issues are leaders, as it were. Are heroes, as it were, because of what they've been through or what they say they're going through, and it all works on martyrdom. The bigger the martyr you are, the more heroic you are. The more that you're going through, the more status you've got in that group, and that gives precedence and influence to that person, and it gives them a sense of importance and contribution to the cause. But all the cause is about is underpinning dysfunction, underpinning hurts and wounds, and standing on the banner of brokenness. Right? Now, being well can be an offence to this and can be opposition to this in the mind of those that are enjoying their dysfunctions, depressions and things. And they want to stay in that because it justifies their habits. You get it? A lot of people like their habits. They like their alcohol, they like their medication, they like their weed and all the other stuff that they take. And their dysfunctions give justification to the uses of these things. But what happens, right, and I've seen this with several women that I've been involved with, you'll bring them in and you'll get them under the spirit of the one of health and happiness and peacefulness, and you'll see them actually start to transform. Things are going better for them. They're starting to see that life can change for the better. But they've got these hangers on. They're in these groups and around these people that pride themselves on their problems. Okay? They pride themselves on their problems. They feel important. They feel like they've got a legitimate influence and grip on these people by way of the bond of their brokenness. And a lot of these people need not be broken. They're just in a group where this is a trend, like people that ride Harley Davidsons. A lot of these people are just trending with the importance of being a depression person, of being an alcoholic, of being a weed head, these things. A lot of it's not for medicinal reasons. Let's face it, let's be fucking honest. A lot of it's because people like doing it. They don't care about their health, their mind, what it's doing to them. It's all part of the martyrdom banner, which is giving them fucking attention. It takes work. It's going to take work. It's going to take wisdom, and you have to find wisdom and put yourself into a place where you're getting wisdom. People are lazy by nature. They don't want to do the work, and they don't want to make the effort. And there's a multitudes of principalities and powers that know how to work people on their weaknesses, and they will bring people down to undermine their relationships. Now, if you're in a situation where you've had a breakup, it's your responsibility to yourself and indirectly to the other person once a post-breakup to fully examine what part you played in that happening. Now, you might have been the dumper or the person that's brought the breakup about, but you better make sure that it was on legitimate grounds. So what's the point? The point's this: integrity. Did you let the other person know what the problem was? Were you clear about it? Did you allow time for the problem to be resolved? And was the problem resolved? If not, that's obviously the reason why you are where you are. And you have to take it as it is. If you're in a situation, in a relationship, where you're starting to get migraines, headaches, deep pain in the back of your mind, a sense in your spirit that things just aren't right, you've made all the discussions and talked about things to try and get improvement, then you have to consider getting out. You have to, for your mental health, because people get sick, they get harmed, and they don't recover from mental injury. If somebody's in a relationship and they're not willing to resolve and fix things, and they do get an injury from a breakup, that's their business. They made their decisions, and that's just how it goes. You can't be responsible for other people's negligences and abuses, only your own. And you better be, otherwise it'll come back to you tenfold, sevenfold, the Bible says, at least sevenfold, and you don't want that. This is Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now.